At the time of recording, this currently is the strongest build available in Borderlands 4. You can quite literally one-shot every single boss in the game. This video will showcase footage from bosses that you kill late in the story, including the final boss. Now you're going to want to keep watching because it's not only the skills that matter, but there is also a very specific piece of equipment that causes this build to be as strong as it is. I'll explain everything as concisely as possible. Enjoy. Okay, so starting off in the green tree, we are going to want to take the Incarnate Action skill. Now the skill itself is pretty useless and the damage you get from the ability is negligible, but we do need to activate it for bonus damage later on. So first skill, Leeching Attunement, max that out. So while we're attuned to kinetic, which basically means while we are using a kinetic weapon, we gain lifesteal, great survivability, and converts into damage later on, you'll see. And we also get reload speed, which doesn't sound amazing, but because we're going to be using kinetic weapons, and the main weapon that makes this build unbelievably OP is also a Jacob's weapon with only one shot in it, reload speed is great for extra damage. Next we want to max out the Bloodletter skill. Now gun and skill critical hits have a chance to apply a bleed, which does kinetic status effect damage over time, and that damage scales on how much gun damage you do. This right here is actually what makes the build broken. We need to combine this with a very specific piece of equipment later on. This is effectively what makes the build so good against bosses. The first skill we equip then is Energy Vampire. I'll be honest, it's not amazing, but it will increase that status effect bleed damage that we got from this skill, so it's worth picking up. Next, max out Material Components. I mean, you can see it right there, just more kinetic damage and more bleed damage. Now we move into this tree on the right hand side. We're going to get more max health and max regen. This isn't great, but the alternative option is pointless. It does make us more tanky and gives us that extra survivability. Then we go for Essence Leech, which gives us more lifesteal, and the effect is actually doubled while we have our action skill, Incarnate, up here, while it's active. The lifesteal makes it very difficult to die. Not that you're in a position where you're going to die anyway, because you're just going to kill everything, but still. But what's most important about this is this final skill, Blood is Power. We gain bonus kinetic damage with guns based on our current lifesteal when our health is full. So what this translates to is 300% of our lifesteal is converted into additional kinetic damage. Therefore, whenever we have our Incarnate skill active, giving us more lifesteal, our kinetic damage is going to further increase, which then spirals into all these other previous skill points we put in here being optimized further. Then the final action skill we place here, I'll be honest, is not really a great option. Not that it matters, but it's not a good option. In my opinion, either go with Heart Piercer. If you're playing multiplayer, you're going to be healing your friends, which is a bonus, I guess. The alternative is to go with Witchy Trigger Finger, which is going to help reload your guns every time you use the ability. But with the shotgun and Jacob weapons we're going to be using, this doesn't particularly do anything. And this option here gives extra shields, but again, because we're relying on lifesteal for survivability, shields don't really matter. But yeah, going into the blue tree now. We already discussed it earlier, Idle Hands. We get bonus reload speed when we're at full health because of lifesteal. We are going to be at full health quite often. We then put 2 points into Cold Iron. It's the only other useful skill here. A bit of extra gun damage, but it takes us into the next tier in which we put 5 points right here. Gives us more status effect damage, which does impact the bleed we were talking about earlier. Bunch of extra damage there. Now Grave Quickening, 5 points into that means our action skill is going to be off cooldown more often. When that's activated, we get all those bonus effects, including the lifesteal, which translates into more damage, etc. So it's worth having for that extra uptime. Now with the amount of points left, we're going to end up with one spare, so I put that into Prismatic Ichor. Whenever we apply that bleed, another random element is also going to be applied. Not greatly important, and we will be one-shotting things anyway, so feel free to put that wherever you want. And for the final tree, 37.5% bonus kinetic damage. Sounds good to me, I won't complain. Self-explanatory. Our whole build revolves around kinetic damage and the bleed that scales based on that damage. So yeah, that is the full build. But like I said, this build won't work without very specific pieces of equipment. Now the most important is our grenade slot, but I'll just run you through a couple other things first. First and foremost, this is the most broken gun currently in the game. As far as I'm aware, it's the strongest. Now, the Hot Slugger is a shotgun that can be acquired up here in the Craven's Nook. Once you get through this bunker, there is a boss at the end. Farm that guy, eventually he'll drop it. So as well as naturally having very high damage, it has a bonus skill, which is that whenever you kill something, you deal an additional 30% damage, and you can get 3 stacks of that, so 90% damage extra. It's a Jacob's weapon, it's kinetic, so your critical hits are going to also be ricocheting and killing everything else around you. It only has 1 shot in it, but because of that reload speed we spec'd into earlier on, it doesn't matter. We're going to be firing quick enough anyway. If you don't have access to this yet, trust me, just use any Jacob's weapon you get your hands on. You're mainly going to want to use shotguns and snipers for that high raw gun damage. It will mean your bleed will stack higher faster. But yeah, anything would do. For my secondary, currently I'm using this King's Gambit. It's a pistol that relies on ricochets effectively, good for clearing out high density areas, but not as good as the shotgun of course. Your Repkit, honestly speaking, I don't think particularly matters in this game. The healing doesn't matter because of our lifesteal, so you're going to want to go for something with a good effect. I found this one, it just gives me extra fire rate and move speed, but you're not going to be using this very often, and if anything you lose out on damage by going through the animation, so don't worry too much about this. Now with class mods, just find something that buffs the points that we already have invested in. I found this one which does exactly that, but also the reason I'm using this and not a legendary currently is because this specific class mod came with plus 45% shotgun damage. Pair that with what's going on here, that's a lot of extra damage. My shield, I haven't found anything better than this yet. You'll see in the gameplay footage playing that my shield has a bunch of different orange segments. Every time I lose one of those, I get bonus damage. And as we have so much survivability and rely on lifesteal, we don't need our shield. So my shield can continuously remain empty and it doesn't matter. I'm not really going to die that often. And my shield being empty gives me more damage. And this was a random drop by the way. I don't know if there is a specific area to target farm this. If you happen to know, leave a comment down below. And my enhancement, I've just got very unlucky and not found a good enhancement yet. This one's level 41. Try and find something that buffs Jacob weapons or shotgun if you're using the one I recommend. Now, the thing that matters the absolute most, and this is what gives you that boss one-shot potential, is a Jacob's throwing knife. But not just any Jacob's throwing knife, you're going to want this penetrator augment. Now what this does is whenever you hit the target with the knife, any damage done to the target after that fact is guaranteed to be a critical hit. Now this is what causes the bleed to spiral out of control as it continuously crits and ramps up in its own damage. That causes the ticks to go through the roof, resulting in the one shot. So this build is going to perform amazingly without this, especially against smaller mobs and doing things like drill sites. But if you really want that boss one shot, you're going to need one of these. I don't think there's a good way to target farm it, but there's so many different variations off this knife. You're just looking for the penetrator augment. The amount of damage it does doesn't matter, other effects doesn't matter, purely look for that one augment. When you're out farming other bosses for the other weapons, chances are you'll find one. When I was farming for this shotgun, I happened to find one of this in the process. And then specializations, this is what I'm rocking currently. Not a huge deal, it's just a bonus. Specifically I went for killer because we get extra status effect damage, therefore extra bleed damage, you get the point, as well as extra critical hit damage. With the build we're going for, only makes sense to me. Oh, and we have one extra point. And yeah, that does it for this build. Like I say, the gameplay in the background hopefully shows you exactly how this works and how much damage potential it truly offers. This is the first build video I'm doing on Borderlands 4, so apologies if I missed anything. Please leave a comment down below if there is anything I forgot to mention here that you think is important. Thanks for watching.